there, folks. This is Christopher German here for another episode of Coffee with the Candidates. We've been doing this series we got now about 7-8 candidates we've spoke to. We've got 7 or 8 episodes so far. We're trying to get more people to come in and talk to us because this is the best way to find information about people, I think. We've got some incredible conversations that we've had talking about the issues that are facing Klamath County. And last week we talked about the Sheriff's Department. This week we're going to focus on the Commissioner's races. And today we have a very, very special guest here. He's a very busy man, and he's eminently qualified to be a commissioner. And you guys are going to have the tough time of making the decision of who's going to be the next first seat commissioner. And without further ado, please let me introduce you to G. Moss Driscoll. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, if I did any better, I'd have to sit on my hands, keep them waving in the air.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So talk to me about why did you decide that you needed to run?
Well, I put in basically at the last minute, last filing day. Mm-hmm. But I've been talking with a number of folks about who was going to run. I've been encouraging a couple folks who I thought would be good candidates to run, and it just wasn't in their position. It wasn't their time, and so they declined. And one person who I was talking to asked the question back to me, and my wife actually as well too encouraged me to think about it. We spent a lot of time debating, 2-3 weeks thinking about it, and honestly, before those conversations, I never would have thought of myself running for elected.
Caught you by the wayside, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was not my plan. It's not my long-term plan to become a politician or anything like that. Uh-huh. I just think that right now, the next 4 years are a critical time for Klamath County. We're really at the precipice of a number of issues, not just related to water, not just related to agriculture, but solar, affordable housing, infrastructure. These are all going to really shape the future of Klamath County.
Ensuring that this community is viable for the next 20, 30, 40 years, correct?
Well, we're going to see, I think the inevitable growth here is coming, whether we're talking about, again, solar development, or we're talking about housing or infrastructure needs. It's just inevitable.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to cover today, and there's a lot of issues. But I really wanted to start with, I'd like to focus on your water acumen, because quite frankly, you come from the Bureau of Reclamation. You spoke at the Klamath Water Users Association last year, and you certainly know your nuts and bolts when it comes to managing the water around here, which I think would be a very fresh perspective up on the commission, because for current commissioners back, it doesn't seem like they've been all that focused on curing this water issue, and that's a vital importance to making this place a livable place for the future. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, that is the primary reason I'm running. I think we need more local leadership here from the county level in particular on water issues. You're right. It was previously an issue that the county really didn't work on and didn't deal with the tribes on, for example. So they worked with the tribes on public health, on schooling and education and all sorts of stuff, public transportation. But when it came to water issues, that was a no-go. That to me was never an acceptable place for the county. I think the county has come a long ways. We've seen some great leadership from all our commissioners, particularly in the last 2-3 years where I've been involved more directly with it from Klamath Water Users Association, and as well as the Tri-County, Siskiyou and Modoc County, all really stepping forward and stepping up in terms of that issue. However, we still have a fundamental conflict that continues to perpetuate itself. We see that this year playing out with all the angst and discussions around dam removal.
Well, just yesterday it came out with an announcement from the Klamath Water Users Association that they're 30% below what their expectations were for water allotment for the year. So this is going to be another year, despite the fact that we had a pretty good winter. They're still saying that we don't have enough water. So that's not going to go away anytime in the near future, I don't imagine.
There's a lot I could say about that, but my fundamental belief is, and it's not some grand conspiracy, although the effect is pretty much the same, that this year's operations, last year's operations, the so-called interim operations plan, even the new proposed action, the one thing that it does is perpetuate conflict. Uh-huh. perpetuates
between the federal and the local level, between the different entities, yeah.
Between the tribes and the farmers, between the environmentalists and the water users, between the refuges and the farmers, between the farmers, certain contractors of farmers versus others. It continues to just
it's tearing us apart.
Set each other up for fighting. And that we fundamentally here in Klamath, and I've said it numerous times before, we do not have a water shortage problem. We have a fundamental problem of entities and interests and stakeholders not getting along. Mm-hmm. And that's a historical issue that stems back to our origins. That being said, we have federal agencies that are building new offices, that are staffing up like never before, have larger budgets than they have ever had in their operations from our dysfunction, mm-hmm. from our conflict, from the perpetual need to prop up listed species, threatened and endangered listed species, and to continue research that proves no solution to those issues. Mm-hmm. So we have to exhibit more local leadership and more local resolve to resolve these issues in order to take the control out of the feds. Mm-hmm. I mean, to put it bluntly. And the Bureau of Reclamation, which I work for, and I appreciate the folks who work there, hardworking folks. Same with all the federal agencies, but fundamentally, their success is built on our conflict, and that's just an institutional dynamic that, again, is historical, has long existed.
Do you feel like if the local peoples around here, all the local entities that were part of this issue, if they got together and they started working to this, do you think the federal government would back off a little bit?
I think there are examples of that elsewhere in Oregon, and so yes, yeah. Our neighbors to the north, the Deschutes Basin, they've done a very similar thing.
So you're making a great pitch to have a water guy on the Board of Commissioners.
Well, I do believe in the next 4 years we can fundamentally change the direction of the basin in terms of water issues. Uh-huh. Ultimately, it's our responsibility to ensure that our kids, our grandkids, don't have to read about these issues every day in the paper, don't have to go to school hearing about the conflicts within the agricultural and tribal community. It's time to put these issues, to work to resolve these issues uh-huh. in a sustainable and durable manner.
Well, we've got a lot of things to cover here because we only have 20 minutes that we're allowed to talk, keep people's attention on this whole thing. So without belaboring the water point of view, what else is it that you want to tackle with being a commissioner?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, solar is going to be a bigger issue here in the next 4 years. We've basically seen all the small developers come in, purchase options, agreements with landowners. Now we're going to see basically the mid-majors start to come in and put those together mm-hmm. and start doing large projects. We've seen a few of them already, but that's the tip of the iceberg if you listen to the industry analysts. So we're talking landscape level changes to our environment that we're going to have to deal with for 20, 30 years, the lifespan of this technology. And then we're going to have to figure out at the end of it how to clean it all up. Mm-hmm. So these are real fundamental issues. There are already people who are being affected in terms of home values and their view and their relationship to the environment based on existing developments. And again, we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. So that's an issue that I think our county has started to get up to speed on, obviously put in a new code with respect to solar development. However, I think the county needs to be far more proactive in addressing this development that is coming down the pike, whether that's working directly with developers or reaching out to them or setting up a system for identifying larger areas that can be developed without those kind of impacts. Uh-huh. So that's a specific area where I think we need to make a real improvement.
And the Board of Commissioners is at smack dab in the middle of all that because they handle a lot of the land use issues around here, and you could really be in a good position to negotiate a lot of those issues, could you not?
Absolutely. I think land use planning is one of the fundamental objectives and responsibilities of the county, and certainly our county commissioners who, we have a good planning department, we have good staff who are going to be doing the day-to-day work, continuing that purpose, but for the county commissioners, they need to exhibit leadership in this arena, and it's a challenging field because you're basically batting down projects that are coming at you left and right. Yeah. And so to have a forward-looking vision with respect to, all right, this is coming, Where are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? Not just waiting for those projects to come through the door when some developer decides they've got some package they think all put together nicely. So those are I think are some of the core objectives. Again, we have affordable housing is another area, similar kind of issue in terms of we have to have more housing. We've got a military, the air base that's growing and going to take on new staff. We've got existing shortages in all sectors of the economy, all price points, and there is going to be continued growth and development. We see it already. There's already plans for new development out towards Pine Grove and that area, and that's inevitable. Mm-hmm. It has to be done in a way that is well planned out, and particularly with respect to agriculture. We're going to see agricultural areas be developed, and some of those areas, it's new housing for actually agricultural workers, which is something we want to encourage. But we got to do that in a responsible manner and make sure that we can preserve our agricultural economic base as a way of supporting the whole economy of the Klamath Basin.
Uh-huh. Well, then what else is there? You basically had every aspect of this whole conversation we could possibly have.
We haven't talked about dam removal.
Well, okay, let's hit on that then. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think there's a real good chance that dam removal becomes an acute safety problem this spring.
In terms of water quality, in terms of...
No, we have a very high lake.
Okay.
And we've got a tunnel at the bottom of Iron Gate that blocks up. And if that tunnel blocks up with the reservoir full of water, there is currently no legitimate plan that's been approved and well thought out as to how to open that tunnel back up and empty that reservoir so that dam can be removed this year.
Uh-huh.
It is critical. Timing is the key thing here in dam removal. It's critical that works start in a timely manner so that construction crew, those folks who are down in the river, can get out of there in a timely manner before next winter. Mm-hmm. So they can't be doing dam removal in December of 2024. They need to complete it all by November, let's say at the latest. Mm-hmm. They need to be in there by June 15th. They are still waiting, and they have 2 weeks right now to come up with a plan for how they're actually going to get Iron Gate out of the river this year, considering where the lake is at and the water that's about to come down the river.
Okay. This is something that the Water Users Association has been talking about a lot, is that they need to remove water around. This is a dangerous situation that's developing, is it not?
Yeah. So before dam removal, during the dam removal plan, there was a 1 in 10,000, this was the analysis, a 1 in 10,000 chance that Iron Gate would wash out and breach and we would have a catastrophic failure. And now we've got this issue of the tunnel with inadequate capacity, in part because they lost an air vent this January that was, it's a long story, but now they have these capacity issues that weren't anticipated. And so now the reservoir can't refill without serious issues. And now we have a reservoir, Upper Klamath Lake, that is chock-a-block full of water. So these are real issues. That's just this spring. Mm-hmm. The reality is, with respect to dam removal, they've seen more sediment downstream than was anticipated, at least so far. It hasn't exceeded the overall limits, but more downstream than they projected in terms of sediment released, yet they've gotten less out of the reservoirs than they anticipated.
Uh-huh.
So,
is that because of a lot of sediment that's built up over the years, just slowing the flow and that kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, they were relying on models to project how much sediment was going to be in those reservoirs, and
they were
models are models.
Okay.
We are going to be dealing with dam removal for at least the next decade.
Okay.
In terms of the impacts to the fishery and the story we've all been told in terms of, this is going to be great for the river, the salmon are going to come back, that is a real question mark. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to have that problem. Nobody wants to see Iron Gate wash out this spring. Nobody wants to have the river not recover. It's in everyone's best interest. But right now, between KRC, FERC, and the Bureau of Reclamation, there is a real question about the safety of dam removal this spring. Uh-huh. And it's an issue that frankly, is underreported, is glossed over, and to the extent there are people out there reporting, it's often inaccurate. we need a county commissioner who knows these issues, who doesn't need to be explained by an expert what's going on and what needs to happen.
Right.
So that is a perfect example. The future of Keno Dam is acutely in question. I think there's a legitimate chance that there's a serious movement to try and remove Keno Dam in the next 4 years. I think that's a reasonable time frame. That's an issue that most folks don't even appreciate exists. Even the people in Keno, you explain it to folks down there, and they're shocked to hear that that dam might come out. And
how much of this is a lack of reporting by local media, which is a problem I have here, and how much of this is it's just we didn't plan ahead?
Well, I think the media is limited, and there are some people who are very invested and interested, and they should be available to, or they should be able to access this information, and it should be available to them. These things should be known by those who want to. Whether every person has to know all the particulars, the calculations, these detailed issues, no, I don't think that's a fair expectation. Right. And that's primarily, the role of our elected officials and public officials to be able to address these issues behind the scenes, negotiating, dealing with them in advance, and bringing to the public the crucial issues to make sure that they're aware and have input on. I think there's a public process. The process is the key in almost any decision, but that needs to be managed. It can't just be a free-for-all. And many times on these issues, it resorts to a urgent rush right at the last minute to deal with water or to deal with infrastructure needs, not planned out, not well deliberated, and we're all left with the mess to clean up at the end of the day. So these are the issues that I think I appreciate the issues surrounding the sheriff's office. I can appreciate our budget. Our budget needs acutely and the need to address those, as well as on the ground being managed, managing the issues as they arise. So this is again, I think the next 4 years are just a critical time for Klamath County, and we need the right people. We need the right people behind the scenes working to advance the broader interests of the community.
Now, you talk about on your platforms that I've reviewed your stuff online and whatnot, and you're talking about this population shift that's going to be coming here. We're going to have more people coming in, obviously because of the F-35s are going to do more. They're going to have natural population growth, all these different things. But Derek DeGroot, in a board meeting a couple weeks ago, said that we just don't have the revenues coming in to meet all the services that are going to happen for all these people that are going to be coming here. So we got a big problem coming up on the Board of Commissioners, because we just past this winter we had to dial back our plowing budget because we didn't have enough revenues to be able to take care of the entire county. What are we going to do about the monies to get not just these immediate issues with the water, but we have long-term issues as well as the housing and the infrastructure and all these other things that the county needs to be in place on. They don't have the money to do it. What are they going to do?
Well, we certainly need to be prudent about the services we undertake, particularly when there's big influxes of federal funding, that we don't just add new services, that we don't have a base to be able to support once that federal grant money or what have you runs out. State funding, same kind of thing. There's a lot of services that get added on and with a commitment to fund, and then the funding disappears and it's the local responsibility to carry forward. We've seen that on numerous examples. So there is a need to focus on the core services. I think generally, by and large, for example, our public works, our transportation budget is pretty decently managed. Considering inflation, I'm filling up a rig and putting diesel in a truck these days, and you think about the job it takes to plow our roads or to rebuild our roads. Our county is geographically, obviously, vast. So we're doing a pretty decent job, I think, in overall maintaining our infrastructure, but we don't need to rob Peter to pay Paul in terms of stealing from one budget because the sheriff's office is a little bit short on cash, and so we need to support the cash. So let's let's take it from Public Works or what have you. Those are we need to focus in on our core services, but with growth, with responsible growth, that should help support these services that the community wants and desires. I think some of the questions about policing services and particularly urban services in the south suburban area, those are acute issues that those communities and neighborhoods are going to have to address specifically amongst themselves. People do talk about annexation, but that's not a county commissioner issue. That's a local issue for them, for people to vote on themselves. Mm-hmm. So whether or not people decide to pay a little more in taxes because they want additional services, that's one that our county commissioners need to respect, and to the extent leave room for those folks to do so, not just try and fill the gap, and again, reckon the county budget to support services that they can't afford to provide in a long-term basis. So I think overall, our counties generally, I think our department heads are well run. The department heads that I know, that I speak to, who I've looked into their operations, I think they're generally well run. We have good department heads. So as a community, we need to continue to grow. We need to focus on our core issues and make sure that we're preserving this environment, this agricultural base, our way of life here that we have in Klamath County in terms of outdoors and outdoor recreation. Those are all key attributes that if we can protect and preserve and maintain, this community can grow in a healthy way, where the folks who moved here because they like the lifestyle here can continue to enjoy what makes Klamath County special.
Well, I imagine when people hear what you've already said in this interview and this conversation that we've had, they're going to want to get involved in your campaign, and they're going to want to hear more from you. How can people get in touch with you if they want to support you?
Well, certainly they can reach out to me. I think most folks, I give out my phone number quite readily, and I encourage folks to call me directly. Happy to meet up with folks, talk to them over a cup of coffee, what have you. Sit down and answer their questions. I always appreciate those one-on-one discussions. I learn a lot from folks and hear a lot of perspective, so that's the greatest way. I'll be participating in the Rotary Candidate Forum, the Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum, so all those public events. I'll also do some individual events down in Keno and out in Lancho Valley and Bonanza to be able to reach some of those outlying populations. Otherwise, people can look at my platform, look at my information, my background on mossdriscoll.com. That's my public website. I'm also try and be active on Facebook. Not a big social media person, but I'll try and be at least tell folks what I'm.
He's president.
What's going on. So all those ways, but first and foremost, get a hold of me directly. I think that's the best way to hear my perspective, and I'd also like to learn from others what they're thinking about, what issues are important to them.
Well, I think you're giving the voters of this county, you're giving them a tough decision to make, because we have some very talented people that are part of this election process that are going on right now, and I do hope, I'd like to put you all in there. Let's make it a 20-person board of commissioners and look at everybody's opinion, but we're not going to do that this week, so unfortunately. But sir, let me shake your hand. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for talking with me. And thank you for listening, because these are the important conversations we have to have. Quite frankly, I think we've advanced our dialogue in what's happening here in Klamath County. We've learned some new information today. So I want to thank Moss for being here today, and I want to thank you for watching. If you would like to get involved with any of these candidates, tell all the candidates, get down here, let's talk, let's get some conversations going, because this is how we learn about our community. This is how we learn who we're supposed to vote for and who's going to be leading this place into the future. I'm Christopher German for Sunshine News. You're watching Coffee with the Candidates. I can't thank you enough for being here today. I'll see you next time, folks.